All right, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. Today, we are talking about paying for higher education, which, if you know, you know. Sometimes it can seem like you actually need a degree just to navigate paying for that higher education, and the student loan process can be a little overwhelming at times. In this Making Sense segment, we're going to break down what factors to consider when making those secondary education plans and how to pay for those secondary education plans. Justin, our good friend from Forest Area Federal Credit Union. All right, Justin, you're going to help all the parents out there that are dealing with this, or the students themselves that are dealing with this. We're going to make some sense over this. I appreciate it. As always, if somebody has a question or a comment, they can drop it over, and Justin and I will try to tackle. Or if you got a tip for us, we'd love to hear those as well. All right, so Justin, thanks for being here. What factors do we need to consider when we start planning for those higher education costs?
Well, there's probably a lot of things we're going to talk about tonight that some will seem like common sense. And then hopefully I've got a few other things, maybe just to challenge our viewers
Okay.
to think about, because, so often we rush into things, right? And so many times in this Making Sense segment, we talk about having a plan, developing a plan, working the plan.
Right.
So, what do you need to consider? Well, what schools are you looking at? What does the tuition cost at these schools? What are the fees? What are the books cost, or the access to the online digital equivalents now? What about living expenses? Depending on, these are things that most young adults are thinking about. Their parents or their trusted advisors are talking with them about. It dives into, am I looking at in-state versus out-of-state? What are the cost differentials there? Mm-hmm. Is tuition expected to increase over time at the school I'm looking at? And do I need to factor in any study abroad programs? What line of education am I going into? Is there transportation to be thought of? But even before you start thinking about those things, what I like to challenge anyone seeking higher education to think about is, what is the plan? What is the goal? What am I going to do with this degree? What type of output in terms of income am I expecting to realize? And are my expectations realistic? So many times I think back many years ago, I thought, I go get this college education, and when I have that degree, boom, I should be making X dollars per year. Mm-hmm. In my case, I think I had a little bit of an unrealistic expectation, right? Because, really when you enter the workforce, you also have to prove yourself. And there's so much you can do with higher education. And I'm a proponent of higher education. I'm a proponent of the trades also. Mm-hmm. So really think about, what is it that you're trying to accomplish when you're looking at a form of higher education, and make sure that you check yourself that what your expectations for output at the end kind of match up with what reality is, because, you're going to have to look at college if you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, so many other things, right? Mm-hmm. But even in those professions, or if you're going to be a secondary education teacher or a high school teacher, any of these things, any of these professions, you'll notice that there's going to be huge differentials in pay based on where you end up working. The wage in Northern Michigan for a teacher, possibly even a doctor or lawyer, is going to be vastly different than maybe certain locations in California. Mm-hmm. So sure. Where you get that education, how you obtain it, and where you're ultimately hoping to end up is all going to play a factor in that. And at the end of the day, the best laid plans always change anyway. So factor in the opportunity for change in there too.
Absolutely. I think you have to kind of consider what the return on that investment is. And that return may not strictly be financial, but when you're talking about over the course of 4 years, it could be the same price as a mortgage, right?
That's right.
And you wouldn't willy-nilly, buy a house without thinking, how am I going to pay this off? So it probably applies with those kinds of costs. All right. So we're talking big money, in a lot of cases, big money, right? College can be
Yes.
expensive, or whatever. Even secondary training sometimes can be expensive. So how do we get some help with that? How do we know what kind of financial aid and scholarships may be available to somebody that's considering that?
My first recommendation, first stop, is going to be FAFSA. I think a lot of people have probably heard that acronym before. That is the Free Application for Financial Student Aid.
Yeah.
And it is basically, the first door that you need to open in many ways. If you're looking for financing for higher education, if you're looking to see what types of aid you're eligible for, that's where it needs to start. So check out, FAFSA. A simple Google search will take you right there. Most of your colleges and universities are going to have links to it.
Uh-huh.
That is going to be a great starting point for you. But especially if you're a young learner, somebody that's and we're in that season, right? We're approaching graduation for high school coming up here. Talk to guidance counselors, but also spread your reach even behind your guidance counselors. They're going to have a wealth of information, but there are so many organizations and businesses that also offer scholarships or programs that might be beneficial to you. I mean, talk with if you're even just part-time employed right now, talk to your employer, ask if they have a tuition reimbursement program. Those things are out there, and sometimes they're not talked about a great deal, but definitely things that you can look into. But fill out the FAFSA, find out where you stand in that regard. And something that's newer, definitely newer since I was thinking about the higher education for myself. In Michigan, there's the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. Newer program. It kind of started taking place for graduating class of 2023, but it's a scholarship. It's designed to help students pursue their dreams and goals in the state of Michigan. And so graduating high school seniors are eligible to earn a skill certificate or a degree at their local community college, tuition free, potentially, by filling out the FAFSA. And, when you have a community college in your neighborhood, this is an unbelievable opportunity. And, it is directed towards graduating seniors, but, if you're in district, your tuition, contact hours, and mandatory fees could be covered. There's some bonus opportunities in there also, depending on income-based eligibility. But all recent Michigan high school graduates are eligible. So, get out there, take a look. It's just an outstanding program that everyone that's considering it should take a look at. So often, if you're looking at a big Ivy League school or looking to move out of town, maybe this isn't the fit. But in so many cases, we hear that, the first couple of years or the core curriculum, what you're taking in the first few semesters is going to be, the same types of classes, no matter where you're taking them. If you can take care of those more locally and do it at little to no cost, I just think this is a tremendous opportunity in Michigan, and would encourage everybody to, even if it's not in your plan, to at least take a look at it and write it down as an option on your table. And you never know, maybe you'll find a way to work it into your plan, or maybe you'll see an opportunity that you didn't realize was out there before.
Absolutely. And just full disclosure, I am 7 years into an 8-year commitment of paying children's college educations, right? So I'm not an expert financially, but I know a few things. There is help out there for filling out the FAFSA forms. There's a lot of help. So if you're a parent and you're like, I don't even know, there is help out there. The schools can help you with this, and that is a critical step. The other thing I love about this community college, maybe going that route, again, you're absolutely right. Knocking off, if you're not an English major, English 101, that may be a requirement anywhere you go. Take it for less. Don't pay U of M prices if you can get it at the community college. The other thing, that's a great approach. When we send our kids off to college, there's a lot that changes, right? Not only are they suddenly a college student, but they're also dealing with all the aspects of living on their own, college environment and everything like that, they may still be able to live at home, go to community college, and you switch that one variable of now you are taking college level classes, but everything else, that support system, everything else is the same. So I do love that. For an awful lot of kids, that is a nice step into what they may do that third and fourth year. It's kind of that gentle transition as opposed to you're on your own, you have a lot of responsibility, and you have a lot of freedom. Sometimes that doesn't work out so well for an 18-year-old, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, and there are all kinds of scholarships. Also, here's just don't scoff at a $500 scholarship. Those add up.
That's right. Go grab all of them you can.
Grab them all. So, all right. So if we get some scholarships, we maybe think about our plan and pick our school, and we make good. We take advantage of programs that may be out there. There's still going to be some. We're still going to have to pay a little bit, at least. Do we consider student loans?
Yes, absolutely. You know, as you mentioned earlier, this is a lot of times we have students that are coming out of high school, looking at higher education at colleges and universities, and we don't even think of the true investment that it is. You know, I mean, a lot of times these kids are getting their first car loan for $5,000 or less, and you know they're not even thinking about buying a home for $100,000 or more in the future, but yet their education that they're looking at could easily be that. So it very well may take, you know, some assistance in financing. Student loans are definitely an avenue to do that. You know, there's a lot of talk about student loans. I'm going to tell you that your guidance counselors, the resources that are available at colleges and universities that you're looking at, which by the way, they want your enrollment. They're there to help. Yeah. I mean, utilize them, utilize their resources. If you're unfamiliar with terms, you know, words and terms and terminology in the financing, Google's going to be your friend. I mean, it's not, you know, that difficult. For example, Pell Grants. What is a Pell Grant? Maybe people have heard of that. You know, that's a federal program that's available to undergraduate students that have exceptional financial need. How are you going to find out if you have an exceptional financial need? You're going to fill out the FAFSA, right?
Yeah, right.
You know, then there's generally, when you're talking true student loans, there's generally two types. There's subsidized and unsubsidized. Yep. Knowing the difference between these two is critically important, because if you've ever heard poor things being said about student loans, which there's a lot out there, good and bad, you know, a lot of it might be directed back to, did I really know what I was getting into? Yeah. Subsidized loans are going to be in your best interest. What this means is the interest. Loans have interest. That's the cost you pay to have the loan, right? On a subsidized loan, the interest is not being charged while you're enrolled in school. Generally speaking, you know, there's probably a whole lot more red tape that goes with it. But versus an unsubsidized loan, if you obtain an unsubsidized loan, as soon as you take a draw, as soon as you are dispersed those funds, or they're dispersed on your behalf for higher education, the interest clock, the interest rate starts ticking, and generally doesn't stop, you know, unless there's of course deferrals and different things in there. But you know, when you hear those stories of people paying on student loans for an exorbitantly long time, often, you know, the subsidized versus unsubsidized loan type could play a factor in that. And these loans come with all sorts of repayment types or options. And what do people often gravitate towards? They gravitate towards the low payment options. Well, there's a price to pay for that also. It's going to take you longer to pay it back, right? So work with those guidance counselors, work with the liaisons at the colleges and universities, utilize the online tools that are available, be informed so that if you're going to utilize debt to fund higher education, that you know what you're getting into, and let it be part of your plan, so that you can have a plan for how to reduce that debt over time once you enter the workforce.
Yeah, it's Justin, like I think we have talked about loans on a whole bunch of things. And normally they're things that we're looking forward to, a new car, a new house, or the experience of going to college. it's tempting to sign and make it happen and forget that I'm going to have to pay that off, right? And
Yeah.
we always talk about everything of, yeah, you know, you smell that new car and you drive it the first time, you're like, this is great, but you are going to have to pay it off. Student loans, no different. You will get the money, you will get the experience right away, but eventually you got to start paying them back. So
Yes.
that's a good thing to consider. All right. So what are some alternate saving strategies that we, either as students or as parents, that may want to help out? What are some things we should be considering?
Sure. If you're a parent or a guardian, there's definitely savings programs that come with tax advantages where you can save for, future educational expenses. Definitely look into those. Your financial institutions, banks, credit unions, glad to help give some guidance. There's a lot of information online also. Students, start, thinking about saving because, as you start traveling to and from college or university, or whether you're staying on campus, there's going to be additional expenses.
Yeah.
Do you have a job now? Can you fit in a part-time job along with your studying and your coursework? That can be very helpful. And then also your parents, guardians, are they able to financially assist you? Have candid conversations with your loved ones. Ask your parents or your guardians, did you ever think of a savings program for me for higher education? If not, is there something maybe you could help me get started? Or are you able to assist me in funding my education? Or are you able to assist me in obtaining a student loan? Because, that happens. That's very commonplace also. And you'll learn your options through the FAFSA form there.
Also, don't sleep on opportunities on campus to make money legally, like work study. Both
Yes.
of my boys do did work study. The colleges have a lot of those programs. My youngest is a tour guide, so the new students that come on, he takes them on tours. And the work study
Cool.
programs through the schools they're flexible. They work around, student athlete schedules, things like that. And it's a great experience for them. So don't sleep on those. All right. What can we do or should we be doing now to prepare for higher education expenses later? Like, not necessarily like we need a loan because my child is graduating in May and they need to go somewhere in September.
Yeah.
But if we did have that long-term goal, is saving for college in some ways, and tell me if I'm wrong, in some ways like saving for retirement, in that if you start early, it doesn't have to hurt as much, the saving process. If you can spread it out, like with a birth, and then 18 years later, the money's there. Is it the same kind of mentality as saving for retirement in some ways?
I'm going to say absolutely yes, it is. And if this is the path that you're going down is to higher education, how does that fit in to your overall plan?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your higher education, maybe it's a program, a certificate program that's any number of weeks long. Maybe you're going for that associate degree or a 4-year degree or more. What is your plan, and where does it fall on your priority level in your goals and aspirations in life? And, if you're in it, I'm going to say, work on making that a top priority. And while you're there, while that's your priority, consider avoiding other unnecessary debt. It's not as easy as it sounds, but if you watch your nickel and dimes, I like to say the dollars will take care of themselves. It's not always the case, but, frugality goes a little ways. So avoid, if that higher education is the priority that you're setting and you've made that decision, work hard at it and forego some of those other spending opportunities so that you can focus on your priority. And with that, learning and developing and maintaining basic budgeting skills is going to help you throughout that process.
Yeah.
Whether it's for the student or their parents, ask about with your tax preparers and advisors if there's tax credits or deductions that are available while you're going through the higher education process. And, then first and foremost, be in the know. Understand, what is this higher education going to cost me? What is the hourly tuition rate? What are the fees? What am I really getting into? When I say, oh, I want to be a marine biologist. Okay. how many hours does that take? Schools are available to me, and what are the costs to attend each, and really put it down on paper rather than just saying, oh, marine biologist, I need $200,000, so let me go get that loan. I encourage everyone to put additional effort into it. And I'll take one moment to circle back and share my love and passion for many of the great community colleges in our area. And there's many all over around us. Of course, here in Grand Traverse County, we have NMC, and I can't say enough about the opportunities that's given myself, people in my family, and other people that are close. And surrounding communities, we have similar stories there. So take a look at that Michigan Achievement Scholarship opportunity, and don't let that pass you by as an option. Put your options down on the table and look at them all and decide what's going to help work best, meet your goals, and work your plan.
That's great advice. And I think we've seen kind of with this, at least from the outside looking in, what I'm viewing as this change in perception and perhaps change in purpose in some ways for community colleges. A lot of these community colleges all across the state have partnerships where if you're done after your associate's degree, here's your diploma, go live a good life. But so many of those community colleges also have partnerships that you can easily transition into a 4-year degree. It is that is not groundbreaking, it feels like, anymore. They have pathways that if you're thinking, I want a 4-year degree, they make it very easy to make sure that you've got what you need at the end of 2 years to seamlessly transfer into as a junior to Central Michigan or Ferris State or any of these other programs. It is not, if you are shell shocked by what a 4-year degree is going to cost, I couldn't agree with you more. There's an opportunity out there. And I mean, think about this too. We all know freshmen that didn't make it to Christmas break, right?
Yes.
Right? Like they enjoyed college a bit too much, or they weren't prepared for the kind of work it was going to be. Knock it off in that, live at home, have mom and dad or brother or whatever keeping an eye on you to make sure you're getting your work done. Live at home, save some money, go get the student part of being a college student right. And then enjoy yourself your junior and senior year, perhaps once you have that skill set to be better prepared to do that kind of work, right?
That's right. Yeah. So many great resources in many of our backyards. Many of these colleges are offering some 4-year degree programs. Yeah. Many others have university centers just down the road and available, and they collaborate so well with them. I mean, the opportunity, even in Northern Michigan, is really impressive. So don't let the sticker shock. Don't let the sticker shock keep you from doing that, because there is help and there are options out there, right? That's right. Lots of resources.
All right. And if people have questions, go in and talk to your financial institution, because you guys help people navigate this kind of stuff all the time.
We sure do. And we're here and ready to help.
Hey, Justin, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. Hopefully the next time we talk, we'll actually have spring-like weather in Northern Michigan.
That's the hope.
All right, Justin, you take care.
You too.